Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today, here we are at Jared's house. We're going to be doing a little bit of work on this old RZR Pro of his. Looks like we're going to need some wheel bearings in it.
Routine maintenance for a RZR guy.
You know, if you had a Can-Am, you'd probably be at 4,000 miles before you're really looking at doing this. Polaris guy, probably about every 500 to every 1,000 miles, depending on what you ride. I mean, if you ride creeks and mud all the time, it's going to be really soon. If you stay out of the mud, you know, you're probably going to get maybe more like 1,000, maybe 1,500 miles. I don't know.
But, yeah, so like if you keep them greased pretty good, and that's what I was looking at, was see how bad they were in the greasing. But the race came out when I pulled it out, and I didn't want to put it back like that, so I figured I'd put new ones in it when I had it down.
So we'll probably do a little bit of work in here in just a minute, but we want to show you guys before we really hop into it and jump to a time lapse. Some of the things that we think you guys would find useful. So if you have replaced wheel bearings or are looking into replacing them, one thing to understand is that you're going to have to press them out. And when I talk about press, let's walk back here and take a look at your press. You'd end up taking the entire hub off, the hub, and you'd end up sticking it inside of a hydraulic press like this. And then you'd end up using the press to actually be able to press it out of the hub itself. But Jared, being the high-tech redneck that he is, has a tool he'd like to show us. So what you got today, brother?
Well, last time I changed the wheel bearing, I ended up busting one in my press because the wheel bearing didn't want to go in straight. And then you got to try to get the hub centered. And a lot of times the hubs, you know, they got little ears for the arms to hook to, so you don't want to sit sideways. So you have to try to always get that fit. And I ended up busting my wheel bearing last time, so that cost me. And I said, something's got to be better than what I'm doing. So then I started looking, and I'm a believer in the Kryptonite wheel bearings. And they have a tool, which SuperATV does too. This is a SuperATV one. That actually you can use the impact and press the hub or the wheel bearing in and out of the hub with the impact. So you can do it virtually anywhere you want to do it. You don't have to have a massive press with you somewhere. You can do this in the middle of the trails for some reason if you needed to. But basically the way this works is this goes on the back side of the hub. And this little piece here, when you start threading it in, will drive through and press the wheel bearing out into the side of this thing here. And then you just back it back out, and that's the wheel bearing. And then when you reverse it on the hub, and you press the new wheel bearing in with it. So it's pretty handy. I used it once already, and I was really surprised how much easier it made this job. So wheel bearing changes, I've done several of them with the press. It's just time consuming and stuff. This is way better method. I highly recommend getting one of these tools. So.
Probably another thing that you may or may not have hanging around your house, depending on what kind of mechanic you are, but you will need a torque wrench. I brought a couple torque wrenches. They're back there next to that dead blow hammer. Because whenever you go to putting your suspension parts back together, it's extremely important that you get them back to the right torque specs so that they can function properly. Yeah. And so that you don't break the bolts as you put them on, because I mean, you're going to be putting these on with a lot of force often. If you ain't have the torque wrench, you know, normally it don't work out good for you.
Yeah, your brake caliper bolts, they need to be torqued, and then you have your axle nut that need to be torqued, and your lug nuts. Most people don't torque them, but you know, some do. So,
all right, I say we get to work on this thing, man.
Let's do it.
All right, another thing we haven't really talked about too much. If you're going to do some real work, you're going to need a real impact like this. This Milwaukee fuel Jared's had for a long time. And I mean, if you research impacts at all, Milwaukee fuel is best of the best. I mean, this impact here, you probably got a neighborhood of somewhere between 1,300 to 1,400 foot-pound torque to take something off. And I mean, I consider myself normally, you know, a fairly strong guy, but I cannot put the same amount of impact on the nut that this thing can. So if this is something that you plan on doing regularly and you work on your side-by-side regularly, the Milwaukee fuel impact is definitely something that you will want in your arsenal, in your toolbox. And I'll put a link down to an Amazon link if you're looking at getting one of these, but I would highly recommend it.
I just wanted it to be cleaner surface. So this tool one side's smaller than the other. The smaller side will be used for pressing the bearing out because it has to go through this side, which is smaller. And when you press it back in, you'll flip this piece around and use the bigger side. But you always want the least amount over here too, so your socket, so it won't bottom out. And by bottom out, I mean like if it's over here and I was trying to tighten it up, then it would bottom out and it won't be able to turn.
Yeah, the socket wouldn't be deep enough. You see this thing fits in there perfectly. You know, it's been machined to make a perfect fit inside there, so it's only putting pressure on the wheel bearing itself, and it's pressed in on the back side right now on the back of that, and it should make it to where it's pretty easy once you start sending it with the impact right here.
The last one was pretty hard to get out, but the Milwaukee did the trick. Let's see if it doesn't do it this time. Let me turn it up a little bit.
Made it look easy.
Compared to using a press, if any of you guys have changed a wheel bearing, you can probably tell that was quite a bit easier to get that out than using a press. Usually getting it out's not that bad, but sometimes getting a new one in properly can be pretty rough.
It's right there on the edge. Oof.
There you go. It's pretty rough looking. I'm not gonna say it was time for a change, but it's time for a change. Now we're just gonna clean this up a little bit and try to get the new one pressed in. Hopefully this one will go in pretty easy, but we'll clean that up a little bit on the inside there. And go from there.
All we're spraying in there is just a little bit of liquid wrench, some penetrating oil, and we're just gonna spray it in here. And we're going through here and clean it up because you don't want any debris or anything like that when you go to put your new wheel bearing in. You wouldn't want anything in there that would just, you know, off shift that wheel bearing, and if it off shifts it, you keep pressing it in hard, it end up causing a cut or a nick inside of the hub, and the wheel bearing won't set straight, and then it's gonna wear out prematurely. Straight in there.
Penetrating on really does the trick.
Hey, what are you doing in there? This part right here is pretty critical. If you don't have it starting out straight, it isn't going to go in straight. This is what you don't want to have happen. Look at this thing right now. You see it's digging in up here. This side down here is pressing through. That's what you don't want to have happen. So at this point, if this does happen to you, you'll want to take the bearing and push it back out, and then recenter and try again.
Let's see how bad off it is.
It's pretty ugly. Pretty hard to tell, but the top of this thing is not doing so hot. Here shouldn't be so metallic silver. Not a good sign. So we're gonna clean it up. It's kind of hard to tell, guys, but you see, like up in the top of here, you can see light on certain parts of it. And that leads me to believe this hub is not perfectly symmetrical. The bearing's more symmetrical, or so what we're going to try to do, we're going to try to take off. Oh God, we're going all over the place. I lost control of the camera. We're going to try to take the actual hub off, put it in hot water, and see if it doesn't line up better. Because right now, if you just keep trying to force that, you're just going to keep causing damage to your race in there, or not the race, but the actual body of the hub itself. And that's what you don't want to have happen. So it'll take us a few minutes and get this hub off and throw it in some hot water to see if we can't get it to expand a little more.
1 hour later.
A little hot water tree.
Still gonna put it.
Big old gap right there. There's a big old gap in it, right up in here.
I should probably bought new hubs, but we're getting close. It's going to go. It might not be right, but I bet it's tight.
Oh God, might not be right, but it's tight. I like that. Give away a minute.
Yep. Nice seated wheel bearing.
Might not be right, but she's tight. So, this is one of those scenarios that it spins good. We'll look for cracks, make sure it doesn't crack the actual hub itself. And
everything is not always perfect. So you just gotta conquer and overcome.
oh Lord,
It'll work. It's in there. I'll get a few hundred miles out of it at least, so maybe buy new hubs next time.
the good thing about the Kryptonite wheel bearings is you get a lifetime warranty on them, right?
Yeah.
And unless, here's the caveat.
Unless you break it yourself installing it. The last one I broke in the press, they wouldn't warranty it because they said it was an installation error. So as far as wearing out prematurely, they'll warranty it. No questions asked about that. But if they don't, that you broke it installing it, they will not warranty it. So.
That sucks. I mean, the reason we have it out here, obviously, is we took the hub there, the bearing hub, put it in some hot water, let it heat up a little bit, and it's still kind of a bear. I mean, in hindsight, we probably need a different set of hubs because we haven't talked about this in the video up to this point yet, but Jared has the ORB long travel kit on his machine, and there's some, I guess you're supposed to run Turbo S hubs. And when he bought the machine, you know, we don't know for sure if these are Turbo S hubs or if these are Pro hubs or, you know, what the guy who actually installed it went with. So the bearing went in there though, and it doesn't look like it cracked it. So we ought to be all right here.
Yep. Just have to put it back together.
All right, let's put the sucker together, son. The next part, we're gonna take a snap ring. We got a set of snap ring pliers here. If you don't have the pliers, it's gonna be a bear. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's gonna be about impossible.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have a good set. Cheap set probably ain't gonna cut it.
So the way it works is he's gonna compress it together, and then he's gonna slide it in here, and it's gonna set in a little groove right in here. And it's kind of hard to see, but there's a groove right there. And that snap ring will sit in there and keep the bearing from coming out once it is in place. Snap ring has a lot of like loaded spring tension on it when it's getting put in there, and it'd be very hard for one to actually come out. And it is possible for them to break, but
snap ring pliers don't quite open up enough to get a hold of that.
just be a man about it, son.
I can't get the hose is too big. I'm literally having to squeeze it together.
Let's see here. Let me squeeze it in.
Well, I can get it in. I mean,
holy crap! It's got a lot of spring tension on it.
Just getting it in there to start with.
There you go. Did you see how it just snapped right there? That means you put it in correctly.
Yeah, so a lot of guys are like probably gonna look at this video and they're gonna say, "Oh, he forgot to put the blue Loctite in there," and that's a big debate. Online, you look online, people say you're supposed to put blue Loctite on the inside to keep the race from spinning in the hub and ruining your hub. If you let a wheel bearing go that long, that's your own fault. If that wheel bearing goes down, you should know it well before it messes up your hub and seizes up. If you're doing a routine maintenance, greasing and checking it, inspection and stuff, you should find that it's bad before it ever breaks loose. And as you've seen, it's that wheel bearing is pressed into the hub. So in my opinion, it does not need the blue Loctite. That wheel bearing's pressed in there, so it should have enough force to hold itself. And like I said, if you let it go so long that it actually does turn loose and break, you know, starts eating your hub out, you should have stopped. You shouldn't listen to your machine. When it starts talking to you, you need to answer it. If it starts making noises, you need to take it apart and grease it, look at it, inspect it, change wheel bearing. But that's just our opinion. I've Loctited it several, but I just don't see the need in doing it. This is my personal machine, so this is the way I want it done. That way when I come to change this bearing, I can just press it right back out easily.
Yeah.
So
let's slap this thing in there, son. Now, for those of you that probably already know what this thing is, this is a bearing greaser tool, and it's going to be to your machine, right? Like you know what size this one is? I think mine's like maybe like a 39 millimeter. Yours might be like 42 or something like that, but it'll be specific to your machine. So we're going to put a few pumps of grease in this thing before we get going. Now, everybody's got kind of different opinions. Some people want to grease them all the way to the point that grease comes out of them, and if you do that, you've broken the seal on them. So it's up to you. Some people just put a few pumps in there and call it good. What are you going with?
I just go to where I feel it gets pretty tight. I try to look, see if I see the seal starting to push a little bit. Once I see the seal push a little bit, that's usually when I quit. I've seen a new wheel bearing though from SuperATV took 18 pumps of grease before though. So you guys that say it don't need to be greased, that's probably why you're eating through your bearing so bad. Check the backside real quick. Make sure you don't see grease coming out here.
Yeah, there's some grease coming out the backside.
A little bit.
Yeah. White grease though. You're putting red grease in it.
I just wanted, as long as it pushes a little bit. Yep, that's about where I like it.
Everybody's got different set preferences, right? And everybody argues one way or another.
A little extra grease ain't gonna hurt. Let's pop the seal foam out of it, then
All right, here's a trick for you guys. If you're going to torque this thing right, hey, all you gotta do is get somebody to get inside. So right now, Jared's getting inside the machine. He's gonna press the brakes in, and it'll stop this from actually moving. So, you good, brother? Pop means you're there. If you do invest in a torque wrench, it's important after you are done with the torque wrench, put the setting back down to 0. A lot of torque wrenches will become off if you don't set them back down to 0 every time you use them. If you try to store it when it's set to like 180 foot-pound torque, which is what we've used, it won't work properly. The next time you use it, it might be off a little bit. And that kind of defeats the purpose of actually having a torque wrench.
look how close it is on getting it there. The ORB actually allowed for this. That is how incredibly tight that is.
Let's see. I'll try to drive it up a little bit. But yeah, right there's a super tight fit. Well, that's the kind of stuff the big brain engineers think about.
Good stuff.
Whenever they actually go put one of these things together. Boys, tires nowadays, they're getting heavy. So we're going to do the same thing that we were doing earlier in terms of he's going to go around to the front. When I tighten these up, that way they get on there nice and symmetrically, and you don't got to worry about it, dropping on the ground. A lot of people will drop the tire on the ground and then tighten up the lug nuts, but doing it like this, you just press the brake in, you can torque it down to wherever you need to set the torque to. She's loud.
Surprise!
I heard it coming with the fuel pump kicking in. I could hear it humming. I was like, let me get out of here before it starts it.
I guess this is the outro.
This is the outro.
Got the wheel bearings in, as you see, and it fought us a little bit, but as Josh Bush would say, it's the Trailneck way. We put it in there. We made it work. So we got it done, and hopefully it'll last for a pretty good while. The next time I do it, I probably will buy new hubs just because we're so oblong. I'll just go ahead and put new hubs in there too and not have to worry about it. But for now, it'll work. I think it'll get a couple thousand miles out of it, probably. I mean, the Kryptonite's a lifetime warranty, so I'll keep it greased. And my other one, once I changed them, I rode it for another 1,500 miles and never had a problem. They were still tight as the day I sold it as the day I put them in. So fingers crossed I don't have to take those back out for a while. But we should be good. Sorry we haven't been bringing you guys much content. A lot with work, schedules, crazy. You know, we've had a little bit of rainy weather and stuff, but hopefully we get out here and do some riding for you here pretty soon. That's about all I got to say.
Yep. Same boat, you know. We haven't really been riding. Kids been playing basketball. It seems like every Saturday's been taken up, and then every Sunday something else has been going on. And it is what it is, but we look forward to getting to ride some more now that Jared's got his old machine fixed here, or his new machine, however you want to call it, you know. But we appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Till then, I'll see y'all on the trails.
How much of my junk did you get?
It's pretty rough looking.
I was like, oh God, I'm standing in a horrible position.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Just don't want me to put my impact on it, do you?
You can if you want. It's your machine, son.
It'll be alright.
Where's your cap at?
Broke.
This janky ass shit.
So much power, it threw it off.
Hey, if you guys haven't liked the video, go ahead and do so, man. Help us out. Or, you know, hit the subscribe button too. That's another thing that helps us out. Comment down below, you know, if you got a RZR Pro and if you had similar problems and stuff like that. Every little bit of things like that, you know, helps us out a lot because it promotes the video and YouTube is more likely to show it to people who would find it interesting. So we appreciate you guys.